Hi Montana, day 33 of the legislature, and it was a long one. It was about a 13-hour day, and legislators get paid about a little more than $80. So if you hear them say that we make less than minimum wage and that's the reason we shouldn't raise minimum wage, technically that's true. I just want everyone to realize that we also make more than $100 per day, 7 days a week, whether we work 7 days or not, as a per diem. So it was a 13-hour day, but every legislator today with their salary and per diem made more than $180. So, that being said, this morning in Business and Labor, we heard a bill that would actually make it easier for work comp to deny claims. And then we heard a long bill about liquor licenses. The Business and Labor Committee today passed on almost party lines the House Bill 329, which is a race to the bottom for Montana wages and Montana workers. It's really a veiled right to work bill. I really did not think that it would pass. Silly me. The majority party says jobs, 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 and we heard over and over and over again in testimony that this bill would actually make it harder for members of the Contractors Association to get contracts that would help them provide jobs. So today in Business and Labor, we saw the Republicans vote against jobs for Montanans. It's really frustrating when they say one thing and then vote another way. In the House this afternoon, we have good news and bad news. We passed funding for special education in House Bill 32. That's the good news. The bad news is that the funding was cut pretty much exactly in half. There were 3 landlord bills on the floor today, all brought by a landlord, and just a funny little tidbit. Everyone's into doing these disclosures. So a person will bring a landlord-tenant bill and say, full disclosure, I am a landlord, so this could be a conflict of interest. A couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, there were so many people who were standing up and disclosing that they were landlords that the chair said, well, everyone who needs to disclose that they are a landlord and this could be a conflict of interest, please just stand up. Way more than half of the House of Representatives stood up to disclose that they are actually landlords. Pretty funny. Anyway, 3 bills were brought by a person who does own rental property, at least one of which was aimed at tilting the playing field toward landlords and against tenants. But the good news is that bill failed. It would have agreed, it would have let landlords come into tenants' houses if the tenant was gone for more than 24 hours. It was a bad bill. There were 2 others that were aimed at either clarifying or improving landlord-tenant laws, and they passed. So we're in agreement on reasonable bills. In education this afternoon, which is the reason that I'm home so late, we heard 3 bills. The first one was House Bill 423, which is a voucher program that would take public monies and divert them to private schools. It will defund public education as we know it. It actually requires parents to waive the rights of their children to a free and quality public education. It says that the money that is taken from a public school to follow the student toward whatever private school they want to go to can be used for educational therapy, and that does include the conversion therapy that is used to try to convince students that they are not gay. It takes more money away from a public school per student than the school actually receives to fund. So it digs a big hole in school funding. It's a terrible voucher bill, the likes of which has never been passed in Montana, and I am very hopeful that this will not be the session where we institute a terrible voucher system to defund public education in Montana. We also heard House Bill 375, which will provide some funding for schools that are Bureau of Indian Education schools. Currently, these schools are not receiving any funding for Indian Education for All money, the Native American Achievement Gap funding, or the Quality Educator funding. And so they are held to accreditation standards by the Board of Public Education, and in some way they are public schools, and they're not receiving this funding that is supposed to be targeted at helping Native American students achieve. So it's a good bill. It's not very much money. I hope it gets through the appropriations process. We just heard it today and we haven't voted on it. And then we ended the day with House Bill 376, which provides a new system for forming charter schools in the state of Montana, even though currently under Montana law, any school district can apply for variances that allow them to hold a public charter school. One senator came in and just attacked the workers in public schools and then left, so we couldn't ask him any questions. I thought it was a pretty cowardly thing to do. Americans for Prosperity stood up as a proponent. If you don't know who Americans for Prosperity are, then you should definitely Google them and educate yourself. They are the dark money that has been the worst of the worst in politics in this nation and in this state. They threatened the legislators a couple of weeks ago about voting for or against a bill. They're part of a group called the American Legislative Exchange Council that are they're a group of corporations who are just drooling over the thought that Montana might implement a system in which public dollars could be diverted to private corporations that will be profiteering off of our education system, off of our tax dollars in our education system. This is a bill that could potentially open the floodgates of our tax dollars being diverted to these corporate bad actors who would potentially profit in obscene amounts off of the education system. It's profiteering at its worst off of a system that is meant to provide a free and quality public education for all of Montana's children. I will let you know the status of both the voucher bill and the charter schools bill as soon as we vote on them. That's my day. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.